It was November 23rd, 1961, and three artists were planning a dinner party: Ted, Muriel, and Andy. At the last minute, Andy cancelled. Yeah, he wasn't feeling great, to be honest. He was a bit depressed, about his work, So Muriel and Ted decided, well, we better go and check in on him. He's a bit depressed. It's not like him to miss a dinner party, We better go in and check in on him. So that check-in inadvertently changed the course of 20th century pop culture. Ted Carey told us what happened when they arrived in Andy's apartment that night in a 1985 interview. He said, "We arrived in Andy's apartment. Jeannie Mac, he was in an awful state. He didn't know what to do with his work. He couldn't think of any ideas. He was depressed about his work, Now, when he saw Muriel enter the apartment, his eyes kind of lit up. He ran over to Muriel and said, Muriel, seriously, you have to give me an idea." No, he wasn't from Cork, by the way. Muriel, seriously, you have to give me an idea. I don't know what to do, with my work. And she went, "Relax, Andy, relax. I'll give you an idea." Now, Muriel, being the shrewd lady that she was, told Andy, yeah, I'll give you an idea, but you're going to have to give me $50. So Andy scrambled through his apartment, got the checkbook, wrote the check, handed it to Muriel, and sat down waiting for the inspiration. Muriel, cool as a cucumber, went over, stood in front of Andy, and looked him right in the eye and said, "Andy, it's like this now, right? You have to create work that people will recognize, something people see every day, something like, I know, a can of Campbell's soup." Off he went, and he created a whole body of work around Campbell's soup. Now, 7 months later, Andy Warhol had his first solo exhibition around this body of work in a gallery in Los Angeles. The owner of the gallery, who was called Bloom, he bought the whole collection of work for $1,000. Little did Bloom know that 24 years later, he would sell this body of work for $15 million. Not bad. What was it about Andy Warhol that enabled him to create such an enormous net value at the time of his death? 220 million was his worth at the time of his death. Usually it's after they die, but he lived this. What was it about Andy Warhol? What made him so different? Now, this always, bemused me, and you might be thinking and looking at me going, differently from what, Tara? Why was he different? I'll tell you now. So, differently from, say, our average creative person living here in Ireland, whose income is less than €11,000 per year from their creative work. Now, according to the European Anti-Poverty Network, this tells us our creative people are living on the poverty line. Lads, this is a reality. But more interestingly, to me, why is it such an accepted reality? Why? Now, my curiosity led me to a place called Paris, where I found this man called Henry Murger. Now, it was the mid-19th century, by the way. And Henry Murger, in the mid-19th century, wrote a very, very famous French novel. I practiced this. A French novel called Scènes de la vie de Bohème. And this novel talked about a group of young artists living in the Bohemian quarter in Paris at the time. Now, this novel became wildly popular and trendy to be an artist and to be poor. Following on 150 years later, Henry Merger's teachings and book it was ingrained in our popular culture that this was okay to be an artist and to be poor. Artists are held to the notion that art is a product of the financially unsound, but morally superior. So this made sense to me. Okay, there's some reasoning behind why artists seem to think it's actually okay not to be paid for their work or to be poor, right? That it's an accepted thing in society. That kind of explains it. My name is Tara Prendergast. I wake up every single morning with an overwhelming energy and drive to change not only the lives of creative people, but the future. Poverty line, trendy to be poor. This is archaic mindset. Now, don't get me wrong. I know creating does not come from a place of enterprise or money. I know that. I accept that. That is why I fall in love with creative people every single day. But we are living in a different world now. A world that is moving so fast, where technology is going to blow our minds. And it is my purpose to ensure our creative people are not left behind. So, how are we going to do this? I want us to think back to our friend Andy. What was it about Andy Warhol? Now, I'm a big believer in listening to people and learning from people. So what can we learn from Andy Warhol? I think it's time I told you guys something. Now brace yourself. There's a lot of you guys in here that will not like what I'm about to say. You might feel offended. You might want to throw something at me. Maybe I should brace myself, actually. But I will feel the fear, and I will do it anyway. Remember my purpose. Financial success in the art world has very little to do with your talent. 10% is your talent. The rest is business. It's how you market yourself, promote yourself, strategy, planning. All those things creative people run away from. So, if you're a creative and you've been blaming your talent, think again. Okay, so now we have a bit of a jigsaw going on. We have creative people here who are on the poverty line, right? We have Henry Merger, who's telling creative people, don't worry about it. Sure, it's cool to be poor, like. And then we've Andy Warhol, who's completely bypassed Henry and embraced entrepreneurship and learned how to do business around his work. So the obvious solution, the missing link here, of course, it's to teach our creative people entrepreneurship, right? That makes sense. It's obvious. Yes, it is, and I agree, but I believe it goes much, much deeper than that. You see, we're dealing with a 150-year-old mindset here, something that has knocked creatives' confidence and ability to see beyond. So, what do we do? I know creative people need community, and I urge the government here in Ireland to incentivize landlords that are holding so many empty spaces in our cities to open them and let us professionally run co-working environments for our creative people of all disciplines. Because if we do this, we build not only a community around creativity, but we build a culture around creativity, which will have a huge impact on the wealth of our economy. We also know that unless we integrate business modules into the art and design curriculum, then this system will continually spit out underskilled graduates heading straight for that poverty line. How do I know this? I know that's what you're thinking. How do you know this? Over the last year and a half, I've been building a community of creative people. This group is filled with hardworking, intelligent, passionate biscuits. Yes, we are called biscuits. We are almost at 2,000 people right now. We are just beginning. We are the movement that will create a new ecosystem for the creative professional. We are biscuits. And I leave you with one quote tonight from my all-time favorite person in the world, Benjamin Franklin. And he puts it so well. You tell me, I forget. You teach me, I remember. But you include me, and I will learn. Keep creative. Thank you.